Welcome back to another week where myself and Michael Baker are getting together to talk about his program. We're into week 3 now. So firstly, Michael, we're Friday, just about the end of week 3. How's this past week been for you, mate?
Yeah, good.
Yep. Any sore spots, any sort of dramas or problems that you've noticed? Still coping with the training okay?
No dramas. I mean, I feel, again, it seems strange, but even after only 3 weeks, I do feel that there's been some adaptation. I'm finding the strength. So the few things that I was struggling with, the strength stuff, where I was pulling up sore the day after and the day after, not anymore. So that's good. I will start a bit gingerly, first few sets of press-ups.
Yeah.
But then as things get there. The one-legged drills, getting much better at those.
Yep.
And just feeling stronger.
Yep. Look, and overall, that's the type of feedback that I'm looking for. So the fact that the repeatability is a big thing. The fact that you can, get back up and get that consistency in your training. So that means your body's adapting to the training. As you said, you're a little bit sore, but then once you get into it, you can feel the improvements. So that's an instinctual thing. It's not just also what the data is telling you, but it's an instinctual thing. And that's, I think, a really important thing to remember in this day and age where there's so much data to tell us everything about, and the data's good, but we also need to have that instinct to let us know how we're feeling. So I thought what we'd do today is actually just run through your program to give people an idea. So I'll go to the share screen. So it's just on a Word doc. So Monday we started with an endurance swim, 4x600 with 30 seconds rest. And this is an important thing. Very easy when it comes to swimming to do it on a time cycle. And I think we need to move away from that and look at, let's just look at giving rest, and the body will give you what it'll give you on a certain day. If I was to give you, say, all right, Michael, I want you to do 4 600s on 10 minutes. Now, one week that could feel really easy, but the next week it could feel, not so easy. So I believe we're probably better off prescribing rest after each interval. And this particular session, so we're mixing up. The first one was an easy pull. Second and third ones were pull and paddle with an easy 75, hard 25 for 600. And then the fourth was 50 streamline on the back, 150 swim with fins. So firstly, thinking back to Monday, how did you find that set?
Yeah, I found that relatively easy.
Yep. And it's an endurance swim. So what we were trying to do there is build up a level of aerobic capacity. And by throwing in those hard 25s at the end of the easy 75, we're working on change of pace. So in an open water swim in a race, sometimes you might have to surge a little bit to get on someone's feet or get around a buoy or the start or whatever. So having that change of pace, but also when you're doing the hard 25s, we're recruiting the muscle fibers that will help us develop the power. Okay. Because we need that sort of change of pace sometimes. And then the streamline on the back, that's a good one, because as triathletes, we can often get into this hunched over position, and just by reversing our posture, getting into a nice streamlined position, that just is good for postural alignment as well. Okay, the easy run in the afternoon. So how are you going with the sort of the breathing only through the nose in terms of how it's feeling?
Yeah, so I'm running within myself. I've got a watch which really takes heart rate, and it measures the heart rate here.
Yep.
I don't know, is that accurate? But I'm trying to keep my heart rate under 130 as I'm running. Just and not that I pay a huge amount of attention to it, but I'm not laboured in any way.
Yep. And that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. That's what we're looking for, because remember, we're trying to improve the aerobic capacity and the aerobic energy system. So, about 80% of our overall total volume should be at that, where you're not laboured. You're feeling as though you could, at the end of 45 minutes, I'm assuming you feel as though you could keep running if you wanted to.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I've thought about that. I should just keep going. I think that's one of the good things about about the session, is that I think a lot of these sessions you should feel towards the end of it, not that you've had enough.
Mm.
oh my God, I've had enough. I
Mm.
can go on.
Yes, absolutely. And that gives you the repeatability, the ability to back up and do another session the next day. So next morning we had the trainer. So this one, easy 15 minutes, we're building. So we're just lifting the body temperature, building the cadence and building the heart rate slowly before we go into some high RPM, 15 seconds at 120 plus RPM. How do you find those?
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
By mixing up, so we do the 10 by 15 second high RPM, and then we go into 10 by 45 second one-legged drill in the hardest possible gear. How are you finding the one-legged drills?
Yeah, I'm getting better at it.
Yep. So
So
when you
at first I found that difficult.
yeah, so when you say you're getting better, what are the feelings that you're experiencing when you think you're getting better? How do you measure
So
that?
more control,
Yep.
smoother,
Yep.
heart rate's lower.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
And can go for longer.
Yes. Yeah. These are really good, and you want to do them in a hard gear again, because you remember triathlon, to achieve success in triathlon, you've got your central cardiovascular system, and then you've got your peripheral system. So your skeletal muscular system, your neuromuscular system, and these one-legged drills help improve your strength and efficiency. So you're saying that you're feeling as though you're more controlled, heart rate is lower, and that's the effect that we want. So come the back end of the race, we've improved your fatigue resistance. You're not decelerating, or you're not dropping power. And when we throw in the high RPM to start, we're doing some quick neuromuscular patterning, but we're also working on the strength. And then we finish just with a little bit of intensity, 5 by 90 seconds, hard gear, but at a fairly high heart rate. How are you finding those?
Yeah. So I'm working for that 90 seconds, and 30 seconds is just enough, just enough to be able to go again.
Yep. And predominantly this session, what's your overall RPE out of 10? How would you rate it out of 10?
It's strange because it varies, and this is something that I struggle with a little bit, because I seem to, it doesn't matter what it is, I recover pretty well.
The reason you recover is because you've got a long history as an athlete, and you've got a reasonably established aerobic capacity already.
Yeah. So those 90-second efforts, they are 8, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
They're hard. And the 30-second recovery, am I 100% recovered? No. Can I go again? Yes.
Yep.
But the other stuff, I'm finding it easier.
Perfect.
The one-legged drills on the week one, I found very difficult. I found it difficult from my heart rate was elevated. I wasn't in control. I didn't feel efficient.
Yep.
So my memory, it's not as if with any of these sessions, as if it's like, okay, well, the session lasted for an hour and I was at threshold for the hour. Does that make sense? So my lasting memory tends to be I look at the overall session rather than the bits of it. But that would be one of the harder sessions, I think.
Yeah. Look, it's overall, in terms of the stress that we've placed on your system from a hormonal and a central nervous system, it's not extensive. I mean, there's no weight bearing. There's a little bit of intensity there, but not too much. So the majority of the session is still in the aerobic intensity, but we're touching the threshold. We're touching the high intensity. So it's called layering. We're doing a little bit of everything in this session, but it's not stressing you in a super hard way that you can't back up. And that's why it's good. And these are great sessions just to improve that efficiency and develop the fatigue resistance. And then, going into the afternoon, doing that strength session, which we've spoken about before in terms of, your push-ups, lunges, squats, prone holds. And that's all about, improving lean muscle mass. And just as we get older, for masters athletes, we don't need to get to the gym. So with these strength sessions, how are you finding them? Are they getting easier, harder?
Yeah, getting easier.
Yeah.
Getting easier, and I'm not as sore. Like the first week, I was very sore the day after and the day after that.
Yeah.
The next week, not so much. And this week, I've pulled up well after those sessions, and I've gotten into them easier.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And that's the fact that you're adapting pretty well as a sign of your experience as an athlete. If you were a newer athlete and you didn't have that experience, you wouldn't be adapting to the sessions as well as you are. So these are all good signs. So moving into Wednesday, we're back into a swim run. And the swim started with 10 by 100 easy choice to start, 15 seconds rest. And then we're doing some change of pace 150s, again, using pull paddle band, starting with an easy 50 into a moderate 50 and then a hard 50. So did you feel as though you were able to increase your pace through each 50 in the 150 meter efforts?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Okay. The easy was easy. The moderate felt like a sort of pace that I could sustain for a long period of time.
Yep.
And the hard.
Yeah, perfect. And that again is a good session that it teaches you to understand what your pace is in a race. In an open water race, you should be able to, okay, I'm swimming easy. No, I'm swimming moderate. I could probably hold this pace. For Harvey Bay in a couple of weeks, you'll probably look at doing it at a moderate pace. A 2K swim, it'll be about a moderate intensity. If you go hard, you'll get out of the water and you'll be a bit cooked for the rest of the day. But an athlete like yourself will be able to swim at a moderate pace. And then the run, so we're backing up for another run, and it's just putting another brick in the foundation, just another run to develop that aerobic capacity, doing more strides. How are you going with the strides?
Yeah, good. The first time I did this, I just did up and back on the strides I did on the same piece of ground, over the same piece of ground. What I'm doing now is, as I'm running home, I'm turning those strides into a bit of almost like a fartlek.
Yeah.
So I'll run a little bit harder, stride out for 15 seconds or so, or 50 meters, 50, 60 meters, then back off easy, then go again, then back off easy. And I make sure the last one is on a down. When I run out from here, I run immediately uphill. When I'm coming back, I'm coming downhill. So I make sure that last one's on a bit of a downhill, and then I ease it off and jog home.
Yeah, perfect. So we're also, when you're doing on the downhill, we're getting some eccentric loading on the tendons and the ligaments and the joints. So that's actually really, really good in terms of, again, developing that strength, that muscular strength, because our limiting factor for an athlete like yourself is not your aerobic capacity. It's your muscular, it's your muscular skeletal system. How long can it maintain pace or power on the bike and the run? And so the strides help us with that. So Thursday, we're back onto the bike. So riding in the hardest possible gear with the sprint. How are you managing the short 10-second sprints?
Yeah, well, this is the one session that I didn't do to program.
Okay, do tell.
So I've been going out and riding and sticking to the program and riding on my own for the last 3 weeks. And I woke up early. There's a group that I used to ride with, and I woke up early on Thursday, and I knew they were heading out. And I thought, and they were going to do 2 hours, so I'll jump in with those guys. And the first probably 15 minutes, I was like, you shouldn't be doing this, because they're going pretty hard, right? But I just sat off the back and I kept it in a big gear.
Yeah.
And eventually what happens is someone burns off or someone turns off and the intensity goes down. And then I spent the rest of the ride, we did it over undulating terrain, and I spent time in a big gear, to the point where people were sitting behind me going, Michael, the gear leader's on the right. So this week I didn't put in those sprints, but I certainly did the ride in a big gear, and I felt strong. We went up one climb where I kind of got dropped because I was in a big gear, and my cadence was really low, but I knew that's what I needed to do. And I didn't want to blow myself up from elevating my heart rate too much by spinning. But then I got back on, and I feel strong on the bike. It's always been it's been a strength of mine in the past, but I definitely feel my legs are stronger at the moment. They're getting stronger, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and by riding in that hardest possible gear, we're continuing to stimulate our slow twitch fibers. So an athlete like yourself that's got a long background in long course racing, predominantly your body, your muscle fiber type will be, the slow twitch fibers. So that's what we need for long course racing. And by doing these rides in the hardest possible gear, there's tension on the pedals the whole time. Sometimes you see athletes, especially triathletes, they'll just spin around and they're just, they're not really achieving too much. So, for something like that, it's interesting, that you're feeling stronger, because that is what we want. So, in regards to 10-second sprints, that's that concept of layering again, where we're just touching the neuromuscular system. So whilst we want to, we want to stimulate the fast twitch fibers, we also need to work on the type 2A fast twitch fibers to stimulate them as well. All right. And then sometimes you'll have your type 2B fast twitch fibers, which you can turn into slow twitch fibers, but you can't really change your fast twitch fibers. But predominantly we're trying to develop your slow twitch fibers, which builds fatigue resistance and allows you to hold power for longer. And that's, so the deceleration process is not as significant. So then we follow up with another strength session and back into the swim today. So today was a pure speed one. We were doing a 2x100 on 3 minutes hard with the paddles. Yeah. So before we started recording, you said you were holding about 123, 124 for the hundreds?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
There's a 25-meter pool. There's an Olympic pool around the corner from me, which I went to. Sometimes they have it as a 50, and sometimes they've got other things going on in 20. Yeah. And today it's 25.
Yep. And so repeated that set 4 times through. Were you able to maintain your times for each set?
Yeah.
And do you think you could have done a 5th or 6th set and maintain times?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So next week, we might look at, last week we were doing hard 50s. We'll probably look at that session again in a couple of weeks, but we'll add some more volume onto it. So if we want to get a greater adaptation, we're either going to increase volume or increase intensity. So we're going to maintain the intensity, but increase the volume. And then you've got a quickish run this evening with some 15-second fast and 45-second recovery. And the fast is at that 3K race pace. So that'll be slightly more intensity before we go back into an aerobic weekend. And based on, I guess, how you're adapting and how you're feeling, and we're 4 weeks out from race day? 4 weeks out from race day?
No, it's 5. It'll be 5 weeks on Sunday.
5 weeks. So next weekend, I would say what we'll probably do is this Saturday ride, we'll increase a little bit and maybe start to throw in some back-ended efforts.
Yeah.
Then that's all about, so we'll increase the run as well to 75 minutes. So add volume, and with the ride on the Saturday, probably up that slightly to 3 hours 15, 3 hours 20, but throw in some slightly faster than race pace intervals in that last hour to recruit again the slow twitch fibers, but also improve your threshold. So we're nudging that threshold up, and that's, all about fatigue resistance. So overall, we seem to be moving in the right direction. Would you say that?
Yeah, and I'm very happy.
Yeah. Good. And, anyone, the thing is, the programming, it's not super complicated. We're just looking at who you are and what your circumstances are, what your background is, what you're training for, and putting in an appropriate load for you at the right time. Now, we could, we could probably increase this load by 30 or 40%, but the risk would be significantly higher. The risk of doing a little bit too much, not being able to get the repeatability and the consistency is not worth the risk. So we're challenging you, we're not breaking you, and that's really what it's all about at the moment. All right, so I'll stop the share. All good. So things are moving along the right direction. I think we keep building that, continue to build the aerobic capacity, start to add a little bit more volume into the session so you can stress your system, get greater adaptations. And before too long, race day will be here.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Mark?
Sure.
Just a general question. I'm obviously aware that we're recording this and this is going to go up on social media. you use with other athletes, you use Training Peaks or?
Yeah, Training Peaks. Yeah.
Okay. And you're an advocate of training with power?
Yes, primarily, but
Yeah.
obviously some athletes don't have it, but my preference is power.
Yeah.
When you're working with athletes online, having that accessibility to power and heart rate is really beneficial, so I can start to evaluate how they're going. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that up because obviously in my profession, I talk to a lot of triathletes and they talk to me about coaching and they talk about power. I personally have made the decision, I don't have a Training Peaks account. Mark and I talked about this, and I'm more than comfortable getting you could write it on the back of a coaster, my program. It wouldn't bother me in the slightest. But I'm just aware that some people might be looking at this going, oh, that Mark Turner, he only, he doesn't use Training Peaks. I'm not going to, so guys, yes, you can get your program via Training Peaks. And I don't have a power meter. I do have a CompuTrainer and other power-based trainers, and I can monitor my power inside. And I think intuitively, because I've been doing this for such a long time, nearly 30 years in triathlon, and I've run a CompuTrainer multi-ride studio, and I pretty much know what I'm pushing.
Yeah.
I could tell you within 10 watts what I'm pushing. I reckon I've got a pretty good handle on that. So just from, again, those that are watching, if you do have a power meter, then Mark likes the data.
Oh, look, the data is great because, like I said, it just allows me to look at patterns and how the athlete is progressing. But more than anything, I take more from the questions and the answers. You telling me how you're feeling and what your perceptions are. That I get more value from than the data. But you put it all together in a picture.
I agree totally. It's the same with the bike fitting. I've got a lot of technology, and I get a lot of numbers and ranges, angles, etc. But the feedback that I'm getting, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, what the client's telling me is overrides numbers that I necessarily get back from a retool system or
Look, 100%. And at the end of the day, if the data stops, like you're driving a car, for instance, all right, and if if all the devices in your car stop, you still got to look out the windscreen and decide where to go. The same with devices and data. You still got to be able to make decisions yourself. So
I have a quick story. I had a client come into me, 70.3 a few weeks ago on the Sunshine Coast. She loves her data. She's got a power meter, Stages power meter. We came in, we did a fit optimization on the Friday. The race was on Sunday, and she wasn't in the best shape of her life. So she was really worried about, number one, about the race. Anyway, on Saturday, she calls me, Michael, the top cap on my Stages power meter has fallen off. I can put another battery in, but I can't keep it in because do you have another cap? I said, no, I don't. She said, what am I going to do? I said, just turn all the data off. Just race, check in with yourself every now and then. How does this feel? Is this sustainable? Et cetera, et cetera. She won her age group. At the end of the day, it comes down to, you've got to be in tune. It doesn't matter what the numbers say, because sometimes they can be wrong.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you can't live up to the number anyway. You've got to react to your body. I think the pros have to react, obviously, to what's going on around them. That's important. The race is up the road and I need to be there. But for most age groupers, it's your best effort on that particular day.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So data is great, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
All right, mate. That's good for another week. We'll do this again next week.
Okay, cheers.